Hello everyone, today we are doing the do's of paranormal investigation. We've done the don'ts of paranormal investigation. Today we are doing the do's. So, as always, let us begin by making a sign of the cross, invoking the Holy Trinity in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, the do's of paranormal investigation. There's a lot. Do you think there's a lot? You should, because there is an awful lot involved with it. It's not like you see on YouTube or on TV, or the matching jackets and the expensive cameras and oh, did you feel that? Oh, what was that? Oh, did you hear that? Because these people, they have everything. They've got heat activated mats, they've got laser grids, they've got night vision cameras, they've got thermal cameras, they've got jackets like that are they no, not jackets, sorry. They have all kinds of things that bring out the spirits, like dolls, and they've got wind chimes, and they've got bells around the door. They've got absolutely everything except a ghost. Now, investigating the paranormal is not about getting a spirit on camera. Investigating the paranormal, it has been, always will be, and should be still about helping people. When we investigate the paranormal, we investigate. That means we gather evidence. That means that we get the people who can help us involved. That means that we finish what we start by either getting the help for those people that need it. And that doesn't mean just going in, setting up your cameras, getting some stuff, going back, and then just texting them later saying, yeah, you got a ghost. You need to get someone in to get rid of that. That's not what it's about, and I've seen it done before. It's about going in. It's about being polite. It's about being friendly to people who are going through some of the worst times imaginable. It's about being their helping hand. It's about being there for someone who probably has lost a lot of friends and relationships because of this. It's about helping. And inevitably, it's about bringing people closer to Christ, because the thing is, when you get a haunting, if it's demonic, if there's demonic infestation, oppression, vexation going on there, well, demonic infestation, uh, obsession, oppression, vexation, and then possession, I think, something like that. But if there is something demonic going on inside the house, we do not go in and say, oh yeah, you got a demon in this house, yep. Absolutely, yeah, you got demons in here. We're gonna set our cameras up and get some stuff, but you're gonna have to get someone else in to help. For instance, if there is something happening in the house and it's demonic, and you know it's demonic because either you've seen something, you've heard something, you've felt something, if it's something dark, you say, so whilst I've been here, and up to this point in the investigation, we do feel that there is a presence in the house. We can't tell you exactly what yet. We need to do further investigation. We need to collect evidence. But we can tell you that there is something here, and we can tell you that we can help. When you are letting someone know that there is something in their house, you have to reinforce that with you can help. See, I don't know whether you just heard that, but now there's things happening around me. Things are moving literally as I'm talking about this here. Things are moving. And this is what happens when you start looking into the demonic. when you start looking into the paranormal, you get the attention of the other side. And it's an odd sensation when you do that, because when you go to someone's house, you know that you're setting out to help them, but you also know that there's no one that's going to be able to help you. So remember that, okay? We'll start the do's with that. Do know that you are there to help them, and if anything happens with you, you are there to help you. Do not go in expecting something to happen, and do not go in expecting to take something back, because you will, even if there is nothing there. If there are things laying there that are dormant, and you go in thinking, oh wow, yeah, we're going to see this, we're going to see that, and if you're hoping to see something, you want to see something, if there is anything laying dormant, all you're doing is sending out hooks, and you'll grab something and you'll take it with you. So go in and know that you're there to help them, and know that you're there for yourself. In other words, you're there knowing that you are the only one that's going to be helping you. So go in with a positive attitude. You need to have done the research on the area and or the place beforehand, preferably. So when you go in, your first interaction with someone is usually the one that lasts. So you want to be going in with some knowledge, okay? Even if they give you very little over the phone, you can't just go in and, ask the obvious questions. You need to go in knowing something. And when I say obvious questions, I mean about things that you could have gotten up off your own backside and research yourself, research the area, research the house, that plot of land, its history, what's happened there, people who may have died there, the deaths on the property, which you can get hold of, things like that. So you want to go into the place with a positive attitude and some knowledge of the place. Not necessarily what's happening with them, but knowledge to some degree. Because they're gonna have no explanation. Most of the time, they'll have no explanation for what's happening to them. And to have someone come in smiley, friendly, and has an understanding of the area, at the very least, and its history, you may already have solved the case. If 200 years ago that plot of land was used for sacrifices to a god somewhere, and there are several hundred people buried there over the years, that's probably the root cause of their problem. So go in happy, smiley, positive, and with some kind of knowledge. Let's call it base knowledge, right? Let's call it base knowledge. It's a base for you to build your knowledge off. Okay. Base knowledge. Positive. Good. Get practicing being humble, my friends. Practice humility and a little mortification. What do I mean by humility and mortification? I mean, don't be proud of yourself for doing what you're doing, and do not think of yourself as a savior, someone who is going to be the one to make everything okay. Simply going knowing that you can help. And most of the time it ends up with Christ being invoked in some manner, in some way. It usually ends up with Christ being invoked. Whether that's through deliverance, whether that's through blessings, whether that's through exorcism. You are simply there to build bridges between the family and Christ, between the family and the church, between the family and the people who inevitably are going to be able to help. You're there to get that help to them. Yes, we do help, but not like what may be needed. We can't perform exorcism. We can't give prayers of liberation to people. We can't, well, to some degree we can, but that's sometimes not enough. We need to understand that we are there to get these people to the help that they need. Okay? What do I mean by mortification? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm still on humble. Humility. Humble yourself by not thinking me. Humble yourself by not taking yourself out of the equation, but thanking God first. By not going in thinking, wow, look what I'm doing. Wow, look what I've just captured. Wow, I'm asking these questions and I'm doing really good. Don't go in like that. Don't go in big-headed because you know all these things. It's simply by the grace of God that you're doing what you're doing in the first place. Okay. So go in humble, and you can practice this by mortification. Now, well, mortification of the flesh. So it can be quite an extreme way, but it is a good way. Um, Usually, when people finish something, a work of some kind, they'll think, "Wow, I did really good there. I'm really pleased with that. I'm happy with that. And that's really good." And I'm not saying anything. Oh, yeah, well, I've done that. Okay, well, never mind. You know, when you finish something, it's good. That's good. Okay, on to the next thing. We don't think, wow, I can do that. I'm doing that. I made that. I'm really proud of myself. I made that. It's not when you're sat there and they're saying, I think this might have started through a Ouija board. I was high one night and I thought because we had gotten a lot of money that day, and then you just can't. You say, I had a lot of money once. I actually did do drugs once, and I did drugs that were a bit worse than you. You don't have to one up people. You don't have to be better than people. Saint Padre Pio teaches us that we are just sinners. We are good for nothings, and he was a saint from start to finish. So be humble. Okay, I'll get off that. Be humble. Mortification is doing things knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable, and doing things because it's uncomfortable in the mindset of Christ. So let me break it down. So, for instance, kneeling to pray. I don't know about you, but kneeling hurts my knees a lot. So when it hurts, instead of getting up and continuing to pray, stay down just a little bit longer. Stay down and offer your pain up. Your knees are hurting, offer it up to the Lord. You say, my God, my knees are hurting. I offer up this pain in conjunction with the pain that you felt carrying the cross in your knees. The weight of the cross of my life, I offer that up in conjunction to the pain that you felt carrying the cross in your knees, the extra weight, the load, the burden. My knees are hurting, Lord. I offer them up to you. I want to be able to relate to your pain, and I offer this up as that. I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of the word, but you know what I'm saying. Um, if you can't be bothered to do something, get up and do it and offer it up for God. If you're at work and you're carrying things on your shoulder, you're carrying buckets on your shoulder, and your shoulder's really hurting, offer it up. Say, God, I want to unite myself to your suffering. The shoulder wound that you got from carrying across my shoulder hurts. It is not as significant as your wound, but I want to unite myself to your suffering. I offer up my pain. Something like that. Do things in the mindset of Christ. Maybe when you're praying, spend more time on your knees. Maybe go out and walk. Instead of getting a bus or driving, walk. Put yourself in an uncomfortable place. I'm not saying practice mortification by putting nails through your hands or doing things like ignoring health and safety. Don't do that. What I'm saying is put yourself in uncomfortable situations, as in walk instead of driving, as in kneel more instead of standing, as in instead of, I don't know, instead of moaning about it and changing it so that it's easier, ask God not for a lighter cross to carry, but for the strength to endure a heavy one, and continue walking with it. It's almost like when you're tired, when you're aching and you don't want to go and do something. I've completely lost what I was saying there. Sorry, that's just completely gone out of my brain. So, be humble, practice the mortification of the flesh, and that's one way to become humble. And going positive and with some base knowledge. Okay? Another do is do your research. Do your research. And I mean that literally. You cannot go into a place and experience the preternatural, the supernatural, the paranormal, and then someone says, "Oh my God, how did they do that?" Your answer should not be, "I don't know." Your answer should not be, "Hang on, let me Google it," or "Let me go back and listen to that podcast." You need to know how the other side works, how something is levitated, how something disappears right in front of you and reappears down the toilet, how things keep disappearing in the house, how they are kept asleep when noises just crazy bad downstairs, when furniture's being moved around but they're kept asleep, how when someone in the next room and the doors are open is screaming for help because they're being attacked but the mother doesn't hear it. How come the mother didn't hear? You need to know how the other side works in order to be able to help people, because if you don't understand how the other side works, how are you going to help them? When I had an extreme case, and I mean extreme case, I, through my contacts in the diocese, I managed to get hold of an exorcist for the diocese where I needed to go. And he said, "So, how would you deal with this situation? And how would you deal with that situation?" And I sat and answered the questions. He obviously needed to know that I knew what I was talking about. And he said, "Okay, all right, well, this is, we're all happy to help down here. You go in and you do your investigation and come back to us, and we'll see if we need to investigate." So, the exorcists themselves should ask you questions. I'm not just going to go and help. Some exorcists may be hard to get hold of. Some exorcists may not be public. Some exorcists may have a secretary. Um, you know, it's it's all about how you word things. Okay? Connections are necessary in order to be able to help people, especially in your own diocese. In your own diocese. Connections are what links us together. And, Christ can't come to people without a connection. Remember that. You need a connection. That's why we pray to God. That's why we say, our Father, or Oh God, or Oh my Jesus. That's how we open ourselves up. We establish a connection. Okay. Now, what was I going to say? Oh yes. So do your research. I don't mean Google things. There are places that you can go. Also, there is a book. I think it's called. I can't remember what it's called now. It's by Father. Pretty sure it's by Father Vincent Lampert. He's an exorcist. And there's another one, Father Chad Ripperger. Okay. Father Vincent Lampert has a book out. I think it's called My Battle Against Satan and His Demons. I think it's something like that. But in it, I did say Father Vincent Lampert, didn't I? Father Vincent Lampert, he's got some books out. I think one of them is My Battle Against Satan and His Demons, I'm pretty sure. In there is a questionnaire. That questionnaire contains questions that will allow anyone to determine whether there is the distinct possibility or even almost a certainty that there is something demonic going on inside that household. Okay? Now, I have the questionnaire. Gavin has the owner of these podcasts. My students, you could say, has this questionnaire. And if you have, I'd be more than happy to send the questionnaire to you. I don't know if Gavin would, but I don't know how you would get in contact with me, but if you are interested, I'll find a way. Anyway, yes, there is a questionnaire out there that every diocese needs to have. Needs to have plenty of, because the parishes inside the diocese have almost zero, for the majority of, have zero training on exorcism, prayers of liberation, and even if they have no idea what someone's talking about when they go to their parish priest, if they have this questionnaire, all they got to do is hand these people that go to their parishes and say, "We got this going on." All they got to do is hand that questionnaire to that parishioner, and they fill it out and bring it back. And all he's got to do is send it to the diocese, to the bishop. They will know what to do next. The parish priest hasn't even got to say anything. But they don't have these, and it's a shame. But me and Gavin, we got them. And they're in the book by Father Vincent Lampert. So, that bit there was knowledge. Do your research about the other side. As I said, there are places that you can go for this knowledge. I'm going to be building a website where all of this knowledge is going to be, including the questionnaire. Gavin has a website. I'm not sure whether the questionnaires are up there or not. And it's in that book. I can't remember what that book's called. I'm pretty sure. It's by Father Vincent Lampert. I know that much. I'll have to get that for another podcast. So do your research. Also, when you go into a house and you're questioning these, not say questioning these people, you're doing your interview. You have to take everything that they are saying with a pinch of salt. You shouldn't go in there believing that they have something happening. Okay, when we start believing indirectly, we almost glorify the other side. So you want to go in with the mindset of, well, your mind being on Christ for one, but you also want to take everything with a pinch of salt until you see it for yourself. Even an exorcist will go in with an open mind, almost a skeptic. They're trained to be skeptics to a certain degree. So we need to go in almost as a skeptic. You can't go in believing every single person, because the whole point of investigating, and that's everything from researching the area to researching identifying the particular demon that could be in the house, to researching medications for certain health conditions, to researching the symptoms of those health conditions, to researching the medication symptoms, to research. You have to research absolutely everything, so that when they're sat there saying, "Yep, I'm on this for this, and I got this for this, and I was taking this for this, but I didn't react so well." So you need to have some kind of. I'm not saying become a pharmacist overnight. I'm not saying that, but have a basic knowledge of things, and you'll build this knowledge also through the more investigations and interviews you do. You will build it. So remember that. But take with a pinch of salt, because if they're saying all these amazing things that are happening, and there's absolutely no way they'll be making it up. And then you say, okay, and you manage to convince the parish priest to come over and do an exorcism. What you're doing is reinforcing something that is not there. And by doing that, you may well bring out something that is laying dormant. I think I said this before. And you could send that person further into whatever health condition they may have. So you don't want to reinforce a false positive by just, I can't think of the word, by taking everyone at their word. Okay, you have to learn that some people want attention. Some people are, they're trying to maybe become a paranormal investigator themselves. Maybe they're trying to get in on the occult. Maybe they're bringing you there for some kind of sacrifice or something like that. We don't know. So going in and taking them out of the word could be dangerous for you as well. So remember that. And your whole team, if you have a team. So remember that. Take them with a pinch of salt. It's I say a pinch of salt. Not everyone's gonna know what I mean, but don't take everyone at their word. Make sure you investigate thoroughly. Okay, some of the questions that you should be asking: is there a history of child abuse? Is there a history of drug or alcohol abuse? Is there a history of mental health conditions within your family or recently? Is there any medication that you're on? What's the medication for? Is there a history of medication? Is there any history of occult practice? Does anyone here practice the occult? That could be anything from witchcraft, pendulums, crystals, necromancy, sorcery, Ouija. and so on and so forth. There's a lot of questions that we need to be asking. You could also ask them about the land, because if you go in armed with that base knowledge, you will know if that person is lying or not. So that's another thing. If you do as much research as you can before you go in, you will be able to tell if a person is lying. If your source for the knowledge is good. Sorry, my nose seems to be blocking, which used to happen a lot when I was live. So I'm not sure why it's doing it now. Anyway, so we have going positive, armed with base knowledge. Do your research. Get an understanding of the other side. Make good connections. Practice humility and mortification. You have... I completely forgot what I just said. I'm sorry. I have quite bad memory, believe it or not. And the only thing that I don't have bad memory on is the occult, demonology, which is odd. Maybe it's just because it's the road that God wants me on. Forget everything else. You just focus on the occult. Yeah. So the questions are important. So ask the right questions. Ask the right questions. Actually, I'm gonna do the questions now. I'm gonna go and get the questions. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so I was right. It is by Father Vincent Lampert, and it's called Exorcism: The Battle Against Satan and His Demons. Okay. Now, this is the questionnaire that I highly recommend people get their hands on one way or another, or just write it from what I'm about to say. Write it down, and then you'll have it. Okay, let's get this done. The following questions, with some explanatory commentary, obviously, suggested possibilities when approached by someone who believes they are suffering from extraordinary demonic activity. For anyone who's wondering if they do already have this book, it is on page 108. So here we go. So a person is asked to share their basic background, including marital status, age, religion, and so on. So, please describe the experience or experiences which lead you to believe that you are being affected by the presence of evil. What has been the frequency and duration that these experiences have occurred? Okay, and then underneath here it says, what I am looking for is what the person believes to be the entry point for the evil in their life. I am also interested in what types of manifestations the person might be experiencing. This allows me to have a better understanding of the number of possible demons and the extent of their power. Question number 2. Is there an event or series of events which creates the impression of evil? So, in other words, does something trigger the manifestations of evil? For example, did the person go on a haunted tour, watch a scary movie, or participate in ghost hunt, or visit a cemetery? So, what was the thing that caused these things to start? Number 3. Please describe your physical history. Have there been any periods of psychotherapy, and if so, about what issues? Are you currently undergoing the care of a psychiatrist or any other type of therapist? Are you currently taking any medication prescribed by a doctor? If so, what kind and type? Have you discussed these occurrences with the therapist? The priest may want to ask the person ask for permission from the individual to speak with their therapist. I also have done this. A family that I'm still involved with, I got them in contact with social services and adult social services. And at one point, the police and the ambulance team, but that's a story for another time. Okay, so the purpose of this question is to understand if the person has been diagnosed with any type of mental health issue and if they are currently being treated for it by a psychiatrist or psychologist. I want to be incredibly careful not to say anything at an initial interview whereby I discount all the work that has been done through the mental health profession. So in other words, he wants to make sure that he doesn't he wants to know if there is anything mental that could be going on with the person, and if there is, he wants to be careful, or you want to be careful not to say anything that's going to trigger that person, or completely throw everything that the psychologist or psychotherapist has done, basically. Question number 4. Have you had any history with chemical addiction or abuse with drugs or alcohol? Okay. Habitual sin in the form of alcohol and drug abuse can be an entry point for evil. I suffer with this myself. Personally, I do. I've only just come off of an addiction to opiates. Which up until that point did cause me a lot of spiritual problems. So, but one also must see their own personal responsibility in overcoming these addictions. It is too easy to lay the blame for all our struggles on the devil. By the way, when we do that, when we just put everything down, oh, it was the devil made me do it, and so on and so forth, all we do is glorify the demonic. We still must exercise professional responsibility, and if the devil is trying to use these addictions to enter into our lives, then we are not completely powerless to turn to Christ for healing. Okay? So question number 4. Have you had any history with the use of pornography through the media, internet, magazines, television, etc.? What kind of music do you listen to and the frequency? What kind of movies and or television programs do you watch and the frequency? So, pornography is a major scourge on humanity right now, and as it reduces the human person to a mere object for another's pleasure. It is sickening that children are being exposed to it at such an early age. The devil uses pornography to disfigure the human person who has been created in the image and likeness of God. The devil believes that he is getting even with God by attacking God's greatest creation, being mankind. The danger of types of music is that it glorifies evil and subliminally putting demonic thoughts and ideas into our minds. It's very true. Question number 6. Have you had any experience or history of engaging in the occult, witchcraft, magic, magicians, fortune tellers, crystals, wizards, or game boards that are linked with the occult? Okay, so it says it is important to know if people have turned to the occult and if they believe in its power. Have they surrendered, either knowingly or unknowingly, to the power and forces of evil? Okay. Question number 7. have you had any relationships or contact with people who are associated with the occult or satanic practices? So, the people we spend time with can influence our thoughts and beliefs. If we are spending time with people involved with the occult, then these relationships can have an adverse effect on us, which is true. I've just had a Satanist and a paganist um, move in next door to us, so we've spoken with them. They know my belief, I know their belief. Um, we do need to be careful with who we hang around with. When you are with Christ, you will find that some people, even your lifelong friends, when you find Christ, regardless if you've said or done anything, you may well find that your mere presence around these people can disturb them. They may get angry or start being hurtful towards you, and they may well start being horrible towards you and want to break all contact off with you. That's because the Holy Spirit that dwells within you irritates the demons within them. So keep that in mind. Don't take it personally if it does happen to you. Question number 8. Have you ever attended a satanic black mass or other satanic rituals? Have you ever tried to communicate with spirits, demons, or the devil itself? I mean, this is a very obvious one, but I'll read out what it says underneath. It is important to know if anyone has attempted direct contact with the devil or any other evil spirits. They seek relationships with us in order to destroy us by having our lives unravel when we try to engage with them. We cannot use the devil, but he will always use us. We might think we have the upper hand and the devil is in our control, but the only person we are fooling is ourselves. Question number 9. To the best of your knowledge, has anyone ever placed a curse on you? Again, this is very self-explanatory, but I'm going to read what it says underneath because this book was written by an exorcist, so straight from the horse's mouth. This question allows me to know the extent of the person's level of faith. Curses are only effective when we are weak in our commitment to Jesus Christ. We cannot control someone who wishes to be engaged in the world of curses, spells, and hexes, but we can control ourselves and make sure that we are surrounding ourselves with God's grace. This is more powerful than any demonic curse that someone might want to send our way. This is very true. If we remain close to Christ, then no one or nothing can hurt us. They may try, and it may feel like they're hurting us, but in the end, the demonic are already defeated. Remember that, people. If you ever come up against someone who is of the demonic, just remember that the devil is already defeated. He cannot win. Okay? Question number 10. Do you have any aversion to sacred objects or rituals that have become part of your personal experience? So again, this is obvious, but one sign of demonic possession is the aversion to anything of a sacred nature. This includes things like a Bible, crucifix, rosary, relic, or holy water. To rule out someone trying to feign possession, which is lie about possession, or fake possession. Oh, we've got... Well, this is just dandy. We now have a thunderstorm rolling in. Okay. The exorcist may bless the person. And we can do this as well. We can pray for them. We can give them deliverance on the spot. May bless the person with unblessed water to see what type of reaction it creates. The exorcist and the demon will know if the water has been blessed, but the person will not. Has any so and also they do that, and we can do that because if we know that it's just tap water, and they're going crazy, burns, then we know that the person is faking it because we know that it's not. But if we use holy water, or no, if we are using just tap water, and they say, well, it's only tap water, it's not gonna hurt us, then we'll know. So, question number 11, I think. Pretty sure. Question number 11. Has anything strange ever occurred in your life for which you have no logical explanation? This allows the person to examine their life and share with the exorcist anything else that may have occurred in their life that is outside of the ordinary. For example, has the person had a vision, particular dream, or been visited by a spirit? So this is more common than you think, people thinking that they have dreams that mean something, people thinking they see visions, people thinking that they have spirits around them or that they have been visited by a spirit. Number 12. Have you ever read any books or done any research on the topic of exorcism? Now this, although it may seem like, well, we're reading from a book on exorcism, we do research on exorcism, we even take part in exorcism. Well, I have, but I don't know if you have, but sometimes it will come to it, so just remember you are with Christ. So if it comes to it, I'm sorry, no, not if it comes to it. If you're looking into exorcism and you're reading things that are glorifying the demonic during exorcism, if you're reading things that are kind of just saying it's all about the demonic and so on and so forth, anything that does not glorify God, and exorcism does, because it glorifies his love and mercy and charity for us, but then you may be looking at something bad and it could cause an entry point. So the exorcist wants to determine that the fascination with the topic of exorcism has not led to the person to self-diagnose and convince themselves they are possessed. So this is what I said earlier on, with not taking everyone at their word, to take it with a pinch of salt, because you may well reinforce a false negative, a false positive, like I said earlier on, and it can do a lot of damage. It is much like the person who picks up a medical journal and then begins to believe that they have the symptoms of a particular illness. That's very true. Question number 13. Have you ever been, open bracket, prayed over, quotation, prayed over, or in quotation, exorcised by an individual or group? Have you turned to someone else for help before seeking help of the church? So here we would want to know if the person has seen anyone who's advertised that they can do exorcisms. I've seen a lot of paranormal groups who have said that they can do exorcisms. I've known of a person who, just because they thought that they were saved through baptism, that they could do exorcism, because they misinterpreted Christ giving his disciples ability to exorcise demons, and it's an incredibly dangerous thing. Now, if someone is trying to exorcise you, and obviously not a priest, and they're not ordained and trained, then they could open you up and themselves and anyone else around the area up to a very severe attack and possible even possession. Okay. There are many deliverance groups that provide a great ministry to those who are afflicted by evil. It is also true that the devil may try to infiltrate these groups so that when a person turns to them for help, they are ultimately left in a worse condition than before. People should never let someone pray over them before they know something about them, because people are not always what they seem to be. So it is true there are deliverance ministries out there. There are groups who can and do deliver and successfully deliver deliverance. Okay? Possession is extremely rare. Extremely rare. Okay? An exorcist's job is only like 30%. The other 70% is pastoral care. And that's a fact. Okay? Exorcism isn't a magic wand. Whenever someone has something paranormal or preternatural or supernatural happening, if it requires exorcism, well, regardless if it does, if that thing leaves through exorcism or deliverance or whatever, it leaves a hole which shines like a light to the entire other side. And the only way to get rid of that hole, well, not get rid of the hole, but to close that off to the other side, is to fill it with Christ. The only way to do that is through the bride of Christ being the new ark, the church. So, you have been told. Question number 14. Okay. We're nearly there, people. Question number 14. How would you describe your own personal self-discipline? How do you deal with personal limits? This question gives the exorcist insight into a person's state of mind. Do they think they are free to do whatever they want? Or do they recognize that limitations are a form of obedience that allow us to grow in holiness and virtue? Does the person understand that just because the human person is capable of something does not mean that it is the right thing to do? Question number 15. I think it's 15. What avenues of healing have you already sought? Okay, so spiritual, medical, this is including therapy and medication, counseling. It is important to understand how the person has tried to fix their brokenness before turning to an exorcist. Has anyone involved in the occult ever given you anything that is still in your possession? This is a big thing, okay? And this is not just has anyone in the occult ever given you anything. This can also be if you have bought something at a yard sale, or a car boot sale, or a second-hand store, or a thrift shop, those kinds of shops. If you, what was I saying? Yeah, if you have bought something from a shop like that, a second-hand store, a doll, piece of clothing, a guitar, TV, whatever it may be, and you have things happening in your house, or that person does, and you might want to include that actually, after they've answered that question, ask them what about anything from a second-hand store, thrift shop, or whatever. Yeah. People can be very, very attached to things, and I'll tell you how that works very briefly. Okay, I'm a 50-year-old man. I have a huge project at work, and it's going to get me that promotion that I've been looking for, and it's going to get me into the six-figure budget or six-figure salary every year, and I'm going to be able to get that house. And I'm working on this project for 6 months straight, and it's due in 7 months, and I'm 6 months in. I'm almost there. I have a heart attack and die. I was so attached to that project that now someone else has taken over, that I've remained with that project until it's finished. That project is then auctioned off and sold. I'm still with that project. That project then is in the household of a family of two, or just a couple, or even a single person. It's in someone else's household. I'm still with that project because I put half a year into it, 6 months. I put into that. My heart, my soul, my sweat, my blood, everything went into that. And I became so attached to it that I never came away from it. And now, in the afterlife, I'm still attached to it, and now I'm in someone's house. And I don't like that. So now I'm going to start creating things to get people to get away from this project, to leave it alone, because it's mine. I start lifting a cup here, I start moving keys there, I start knocking on the door, and so on and so forth. Okay, there was a case of a man and his piano, and the man, I think he wrote on the piano or something. I'm pretty sure it was a piano, but he wrote on the object, I will be here forever, something like that. And he was there for a very long time after he died. A very famous case, I think. I heard it from Ed and Lorraine Warren, but yeah, it can and does happen. Believe it or not, it does happen. Kind of going off track here, okay? Okay, so underneath that question about has anyone ever given you anything, anyone in the occult ever given you anything? This question investigates if demonic infestation may be at play through some object that has been placed on their possession or property. This might include a cursed object or one that has gone through some type of satanic ritual. Some examples would be a voodoo doll or a locket of one's hair. Yes, people do give other people lockets of their hair. Well, that's weird. Instead of hair floating in front of my face. Alright, question, I don't know what question we're on now. 16, I think. Oh, this is the last question, so it's a good one. Do you truly want to be free of the evil influences you believe are presently affecting you? Will you do what must be done? Okay. This may seem like an obvious answer to the question, yes. But people do not understand what is entailed in becoming free of evil. They really don't. People say, yes, I want to be free, and they expect you to say, okay, if you go to the end of the street at the haunted house in the middle of a lightning storm and swing a dead cat around in the air 3 times, they'll say, well, where do I get the cat? If you say you need to start reading the Bible, you need to start going to church, you need to get the confession, make a good confession, and remain close to the church and Christ, and lead a life of penance. They'll say, well, no, I'm not doing that. You see, TV, this is what I mean by things glorifying the demonic on the subject of exorcism and the occult and the demonic. TV, radio, the media has glorified it because it's all about the special effects of the demonic. It's all about how good something looks. It's all about how scary something can be. It's not about the charity of God, giving you a freedom from the demonic. It's not about his love for us, giving his son down to die, and the blood of Christ already freeing us from the demonic, and then we've gone and invited in ourselves, and invoking Christ actually frees us from it. It's not about that. It's about the demonic. It's about how scary things can be. It's about walking backwards up the wall towards the ceiling, which happened once, but it's about all of that. It's not about Christ. Make no mistake, people. The road and the path to being free of Evil can be uphill and backwards. Okay, it can be the longest part of the investigation. The church, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but the church can be extremely difficult in getting even a minor exorcism, which does not need the approval of the bishop, like like a major exorcism does, can be extremely hard to come by because parish priests are not taught about exorcism to the extent that they should be. Okay? A minor exorcism is not a full exorcism, it's not a major exorcism, but it can be enough. And anyway, I'm going to end up going on. So, just because someone is asking for help does not mean that they are willing to do what needs to be done to break the connection with evil. The person must be willing to follow the direction of the exorcist. When I take on a case, I require the person to work directly with me and no other exorcist. Okay, now that can be the same for us. It certainly was for me. Okay, there's been a couple of times when other groups have been involved, and I've said you need to cut them off. Okay, because not because I know what I'm doing and they don't, but if I'm involved with a person, I'm involved with a person, not a person and the group. I don't work through the group or with the group. I am involved with that person. That person becomes my responsibility. And I can't have someone else, interjecting their whatever they're doing. I can't have people making it worse. And I can't have people undoing what I'm trying to do. The person needs to be with me and only me. And that sounds selfish, but my results speak for themselves. And that can be the same for you. It doesn't necessarily have to be a term. If you're with me, you cannot go with anyone else, but you can very strongly suggest it and tell them why. Because we've done this many, many, many times before. We know what it entails. We know how to do it. We know how to get you to help. We can explain what's happening. We know how to explain the demonic. We know how to explain what's happening with you. We have the answers, but we need you to be working with us and only us, because if you don't, you then add another and too big of a variable into it, and we won't get the ending that we need, the outcome that we need. So say it how you want, but don't be horrible about it. But yeah. So, in my experience, people who believe they are possessed will have called or contacted several other exorcists. Same for us. And when a person must be willing, and the person must be willing to follow my direction and continue to consult, and not continue to consult with other exorcists. Sorry. So that was the questionnaire, ladies and jelly spoons. We need to be incredibly vigilant. Okay? When we're helping people, we have to expect the unexpected. And I don't mean go into a house expecting to see demons, ghosts, things flying around everywhere, because it's not how it works. We need to go in open-minded, polite, knowledgeable, and with Christ at the forefront of every single thing we do. We need to prepare spiritually. We need to pray the rosary in our group. No, we all need to pray it. If the devil fears the family that prays the rosary, he will not enter the household that prays the rosary. That's a saying, and for the majority of it, it's true. Okay? We need to be praying. We need to be fasting. This is a very important one. There are accounts in the Bible where the demonic were only able to be driven out by someone who has fasted. So we need to prepare spiritually by fasting. We need to meditate, and we can do that by the rosary, with the rosary, or separately from the rosary. We need to spend a lot of time in prayer and in sacred grounds. So spend more time in church. Maybe go and pray the rosary together at church. Or definitely at least on the way to church. To the case you need to be praying the rosary together. It needs to happen. It is a must. If your group does not want to pray the rosary, then those who want to pray the rosary, get them together and do it together. If no one wants to pray the rosary at least once. There are several mysteries to pray. I have a 20-decade rosary on the way to me. I intend to pray all of the mysteries every day. If you can get hold of a 20 mystery decade, 20 decade rosary, if you can get hold of one, get it. Pray it before a case, pray it after a case, pray it during a case. But we need to be spiritually preparing by doing that. Meditating, spending time on holy ground, praying the rosary, praying, invoking the Blessed Mother, invoking Christ, invoking the heavenly armies, invoking the martyrs, invoking the saints. We need to understand that without Christ, without the invocations of the Trinity, the Blessed Mother, the heavenly armies, we have no one to back us up. St. Paul says we battle not with flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers, against the rulers of this world of darkness. We need to understand that man cannot go up against the devil. Man cannot go up against the powers of darkness. Man cannot do anything. But with the invocation of Christ, with the invocation of Mary, with these prayers, with the rosary, with the scapular, if you're Catholic, go and enroll in the scapular. It's absolutely incredible. I have it, and the promises that come with it are beyond. It's beautiful. Okay, go and get enrolled in the brown scapular. There's a reason that there are brotherhoods within the church. There are whole parts of the church named after the scapular, and dedicated to the Blessed Mother through the scapular. So do that. Fast, meditate. Spend time on holy ground. I don't mean 5-10 minutes. I mean a good couple of hours. Okay. Pray, meditate, enroll in the scapular. Pray the rosary in the group. My friends, my brothers and sisters, I cannot tell you the importance of preparation, the importance of knowledge, the importance of being close to Christ. It is a necessity for our protection, for the protection of others, and for our salvation. There is no salvation outside of Christ, outside of the church. The church is the bride of the Lamb without spot. The church is the new ark. And there's a reason for that, because when the flood comes, anyone who is not in the ark will die. God already flooded the earth once, and that was a baptism of the planet. That was the baptism of the earth. He promised us he would not do that again, and he gave us this promise in the form of a rainbow, which the LGBTQIA2S+ has taken the indigo color out, now has 6 colors for them, and have completely sacrilegiously blasphemed against it. It's blasphemy. It's just it. Anyway, going off track. Stay prayed up. Stay protected, my friends. Stay prayed up. We're gonna end with a prayer. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto. Secutere in principio et nunc et semper et in seculorum. Amen. Good night. God bless, and stay safe.